Reverend Elizabeth Mount. I work for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Cheyenne as its minister. We are currently working on raising funds for the Minister's Discretionary Fund. It's sometimes called the Aid Fund. Part of our mission as the Unitarian Universalist Church is to serve and help others. And as part of that, we do community care. So the Minister's Discretionary Fund is a space that we've carved out a special place outside of our regular budget to make sure that we have the funds for when someone needs pastoral care, when someone needs a little bit of a helping hand within our community. It's pretty easy to receive assistance from the Minister's Discretionary Fund. Basically, you just ask for a private conversation with the minister or ask a pastoral care volunteer to connect you. But this is specifically a fund for people who wouldn't necessarily qualify or don't have the time to wait for larger systems and services. Someone who needs a grocery bill covered because they're unexpectedly in the hospital, or someone who needs their cell phone bill paid right now because they're between jobs and they've run out of funds, but they're waiting on an interview call. So these are the little one-time emergency expenses that you can't really wait for a whole human services response. So the cell phone bill example is a real one. We had someone in this community who was trying to figure out a pretty complicated situation with some child custody issues, trying to switch jobs, and then the cell phone bill came due and he couldn't pay for it. And being able to make sure that his phone stayed on so that trade-offs of care for his kid and new jobs were still accessible meant that he could do all of the things to be a good dad and a provider for his family. And he's doing well and still connected to community. In my last congregation, we had a similar fund, and we had used it for a person who had transitioned, transgender man, and he had been just living with a driver's license, an ID, and all of that didn't match his gender or his current identity for years because he couldn't quite justify the several $100s for the notice in the paper, for going to the courthouse and doing filing fees. And we went, hey, what if we just gave you $250 that covers all of that? And now it's easier for him to find employment. He doesn't have to disclose previous gender identity every time he talks to someone in a government office, someone for work. And that ability to just affirm someone's life is really wonderful. So the success of the fund isn't in how many dollars we give out or is it efficient? It's, do we have a community that's thriving? For me, I see the success of this fund in, are the people, the members and friends and wider community around this Unitarian Universalist Church able to come here with dignity and joy? And if that's true, then this fund is doing its work. That it shouldn't be something shameful to need help. We want to be a community that helps each other. generously and abundantly. And that's the deeper purpose of this fund, is to get us out of that idea that you're failing if you need help, and into the idea that asking for help, being vulnerable with each other, is part of healthy spiritual community. So the minister's discretionary fund is not just primarily, but only funded through the generosity of our church members and friends. So whatever our congregation chooses to give is what we have available. People are especially invited to give during January when we renew our awareness of this fund. But people can give anytime during the year to this fund. So if folks are noticing that there's been a lot of need in the community, it's always lovely to receive a little extra that keeps us able to give abundantly. You can donate during the month of January, and we split our Share the Plate donations between the operating fund of the church that keeps our lights on, keeps us rolling, and the minister's discretionary fund, which is specifically reserved for our giving and helping. You can also give through the Realm app if you're a member or friend of the congregation or like being on our website. And you can always give by giving cash or a check to our bookkeeping team, or just slipping that into the office, or mailing us something. We do old school as well as online. I think the biggest challenge, both for the aid fund as well as for the congregation as a whole in our giving, is that people are really used to a fee for service model. Like when you go to the gym and you pay for a punch card or a certain amount for membership each month so that you can use certain services, or there's a coffee shop, you have to buy a cup of coffee before you sit down. People are really used to a transactional model of services. And so with church, we're not that. We're a collaborative community, and we ask that people give what feels good, give what fits in their budget, without thinking of it as, I give X amount per service I attend and value. That's not what we do here. We pool our resources to build a beloved community, to grow people and networks that simply care for one another. And that's really different than anything else that we're doing in most places in society these days. And so I think people are just unfamiliar or a little confused sometimes as to what the return on giving should be. So that, for us, I think honestly is the biggest challenge, is that we're trying to push against a cultural narrative that tells you that you should be individualistic and only give what you can directly benefit from. And then when we get to church and we find community and we just enjoy each other, people forget that also has to include maintaining the health of the system. And some of that health has to be financial. My hope for this community is that people love each other deeply and well with what they have to give. That no one is giving out of guilt or shame or because they should, but because we know that when we are vulnerable enough to ask for help, that's a gift to community, to allow one another trust. And so I'm asking folks to give to the Minister's Aid Fund because when we can trust that when we ask, we will receive the help we need, that builds a strong community. And it allows us to be more courageous and bold in this community and in the wider world to do all the work that we dream of. So you can donate by going to our website and looking under the Giving tab. You are welcome to use your Realm app. Our bookkeepers would be happy to take cash or checks. And you can also put money in the donation basket all through the month of January. Thanks for considering giving to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Cheyenne's Ministerial Aid Fund. Really appreciate you learning more about this.